All right, now let's get to the other 1-2 story here. We're talking fiscal cliff and Benghazi, and seemingly that's all that dominates Washington lately. And the Benghazi story has quickly become, according to the Republican Party here, Benghazi Gate, and it is now apparently just Susan Rice Gate, according to some. Not much on this from today, from Washington, let alone the GOP. But now, some big-name Democrats are jumping back into the fray. What's the advance today on this, Andrew?
Well, Rich, it's that the Democratic names that we heard from today or in the last couple of days don't get any bigger, as we heard from President Obama at yesterday's cabinet meeting.
Susan Rice is extraordinary. Couldn't be prouder of the job that she's done at USUI.
Not quite as emphatic as he was at that press conference. And then just a few minutes after that cabinet meeting, the woman who Rice hopes to succeed at the State Department gave her 2 cents worth.
Susan Rice has done a great job as our ambassador to the United Nations. Of course, this decision about my successor is up to the president.
And with those big names involved, that would seem to harden the lines for a congressional battle royale on any Rice nomination, as indicated by what top Republicans are still saying.
Concerns I have are greater today than they were before. We are significantly troubled by many of the answers that we got.
I still have many questions that remain unanswered.
All right. We got a couple sidebars in this, but Bill, let me ask you, by every count, they got the votes. They're going to get to 60 here if her name, in fact, does get put out there. Is this the fight really Republicans want to be having right now?
She's got a real problem. If you have a problem with John McCain and Susan Collins, you've got a problem with a nomination.
I have a problem with John McCain.
Yeah.
And that is that in 2002, Condoleezza Rice testified before Congress and also went on the Sunday talk shows talking about centrifuges for the Iraqi government when she knew that was false.
Colin Powell did. Yeah,
no, so did Susan Rice. So did Condoleezza Rice. She knew it was false. She was then nominated for Secretary of State, and who were her biggest advocates in the Senate? John McCain and Lindsey Graham. Why is it okay for Condoleezza
Rice? While they
Rice?
acknowledge she made errors, they defend her because they said she was a person of integrity. And no one's saying that Rice is an all-out-and-out liar. And listen, people make intelligence mistakes before.
Mistakes, yeah.
God knows in the run-up to the war, you had on the floor of the Senate the McCains and the Grahams all saying it themselves.
But what's the difference in those two scenarios besides party identification?
I think the difference is that this matter isn't cleared up yet. It's still a mess. I mean, you even had the Washington Post yesterday, which is hardly a conservative voice, saying this mess is getting worse. We need actual answers on what happened.
Whereas we had concrete proof in 2005 when Condoleezza Rice was nominated for Secretary of State that we're still in the war in Iraq and we had found no weapons of mass destruction. We knew that was garbage.
But the answers to this are not on the table yet. We don't know what happened still. We don't know what happened. We don't know who edited those talking points.
I'm going to flip the question, Don, to you and try and get in the head of the Democrats on this one, because for Republicans, I think the race card's getting a little bit overblown out of this, but I don't know if they want to be spending this amount of political capital. Still, at the end of the day, it's a bunch of old white guys, getting pretty angry on this one. But from the Democrat side, the president has a choice. He's going to have to make sooner than later. Who's going to be his pick? Now, if he wants to spend political capital, he can get her through. There's going to be enough votes unless it's some huge bombshell we haven't heard yet. Or he can pick a John Kerry, and we'll get into the other conspiracy theory about that in a second with Andrew. But what would you advise for the administration? Because if you don't pick Susan Rice, there's a downside to that too at this point, right?
It's a very narrow walking area for this administration as it relates to Ambassador Rice. You've set it up exactly the way it is. If you go with her, she's now become a very polarizing figure, and you're going to waste capital on this backing, capital that you're going to need with this polarized Congress. You know, if they go forward with this, the Congress is not going to be a happy camper, and it's going to have a boomerang effect on the president as he's going forward, considering his legacy. So I wish I had the answer.
Now, if he picks Kerry, then what happens, though? How does everybody else read it? You know what they're going to say about the president if he goes to somebody else.
If he goes with Senator Kerry, they're going to say, this is President Obama doing what he always does. He doesn't like a fight. He always caves. If he goes with Kerry. There is another solution to get around this mess. if he could convince Hillary Clinton to stay on for a little while longer. I don't know if that could happen, but that's
I thought
one
we were
way
going to say
around
ask
it.
for Bill Clinton to take the job. And I think everybody would.
Doesn't Hillary have to get ready for her campaign in 2016?
Yeah,
She
exactly.
does have to get ready for her presidential
Andrew,
campaign.
there has been. I had my own conspiracy theory. Nobody seemed to buy yesterday, but there's one that's picking up a little bit of momentum. It's not just a coincidence. We're not even asked. Susan Collins and everyone says, we think John Kerry would be a terrific nominee. Why does everybody all of a sudden, including Republicans, love John Kerry?
Because they are strategizing ahead better than Gary Kasparov did in a chess game, looking 14 moves down the road. It's all about musical chairs that would happen in the wake of the nomination process. Let's start with Susan Rice. If she becomes Secretary of State, the nation needs a new UN ambassador. That's a pretty easy job to fill. But if Rice isn't chosen for state, only one name seems to pop up in her place. Massachusetts Senator John Kerry. Kerry could be named to defense. His name's been floated, but that's not a lock. He is considered a lock for state if Rice is out of the picture. And if John Kerry leaves the Senate for the State Department, the Massachusetts governor has to call for a special election to replace him. And the Republican nominee in that Senate race would all but guaranteed to be Scott Brown, Senator Scott Brown, who lost his re-election bid to Elizabeth Warren just 3 weeks ago. So the theory goes that all this mess over Susan Rice is just really a convoluted way to get Scott Brown back in the U.S. Senate. Tune in tomorrow.
But I want to ask this question. What if Governor Deval Patrick in Massachusetts is a lot smarter, if you will, than New York Governor David Paterson and says, you know what?
I want the gig.
I'm taking the gig, which is what Paterson should have did, or he should have went with Caroline Kennedy, and he would still be the governor of the great state of New
Still
York.
have to run for re-election.
I just have to say first that I don't think John Bolton would agree that it's easy to become a U.S. a UN.
He wanted to blow up the top 2 floors of the building, so you know.
Relatively.
Yeah.
Relatively easy. I don't buy the conspiracy theory. I mean, I think there are other picks out there, and at this point, it's a trial balloon. The president has not nominated the ambassador.
But why would he so
Jim Webb from Virginia would be a great pick.
vociferously fight for Rice on multiple occasions unless he was going to do it? What's the strategy, Bill, if he wasn't going to pick it?
He could take it back if he really
And why is
wanted
she
to. He
going
could
on
find a way to take it
Capitol
back.
Hill trying to make nice and it didn't work? But why is she doing that with all these lawmakers unless there's another, part 2 to the play?
I mean,
right?
they can force her through if they want. They can force it through. If they want to do it. I think there's Jim Webb out there. There's John Huntsman. If he wanted to reach across the aisle,
I thought Dick
who's
Lugar
already
was
been in the
a name.
administration.
I thought Dick Lugar was a name.
Dick Lugar's name has been out there as well.
A little bit longer the tooth, but certainly if you want to go across the aisle for it. But I don't know why he's going to be doing Republicans any favors with what he's doing to somebody who's been obviously pretty close to him. You could tell.
Right.
He's a little personal here. Rice has been with him since he ran for the office in the beginning. And as you know, no guys like it when people are going after one of their own. All right. We're going to jump to a break here, everybody. When we come back, though, we're going to be switching gears, and we're going to be talking with the perfect guest about not just the lunch meeting, and Bill will tell you what was on the menu, but where the party goes from here, the Republican Party, in figuring out how they get back into power here. Who's going to be the one sitting in the big chair, kind of directing and mapping out strategy here for relevancy once again? Stay with us, everybody. We'll be right back.